This is the Calcio FC podcast with me, David Ferrini. I'm joined by Destination Calcio senior writers, Emmet Gates and Dan Cancian in the studio. We're going to talk about the transfer market, a massive one for Italian clubs, unorthodox, I think. Usually no one spends any money in January, but this time, Serie A. Dan, what number were they in Europe for spendage?
They were the third league in terms of spending in Europe, behind the Premier League. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
And Ligue 1, or as Emmet said off air, probably we should refer to them as PSG because they were the big spenders in France. But yeah, they were Serie A spent. There was a lot of money being thrown about. However, the fact that neither Inter Milan nor Napoli spent big shows you that it was a case of a correction in the market. You know, the clubs who...
Nor Atalanta, if you look at the title contenders, they had a very quiet window.
Hey, tells you everything you need to know about, isn't it? Like, this is very much a case of we got it wrong or we didn't get it right in the summer. Let's try and make amends for it. And Inter Milan don't do that. And as you said, Napoli and Atalanta didn't do that either.
Yeah, they didn't. There were some movers and shakers. We're going to get into those. But first, the big transfer out, shipped off to Manchester United, Dorgu from Lecce. They bought him for, I think it was 220,000 euros. How much did they sell him for? Dan, I'll give this one to you.
30 million euros plus add-ons, which I think is a I mean, obviously it's a great fee for Lecce, but it's not a bad fee for United either. I mean, he's a young player. He's being reported by The Athletic. He's only going to be on £40,000 a week as a salary, which is a drop in the ocean in the Premier League. Yeah. And he's got great potential. You know, he's very young. He can play a wing back and play a full back. He's even played as a right winger this season for Lecce a couple of times.
I've seen him playing behind the striker.
No, I mean, I think it's probably one of those rare cases where it's a good deal for both parties. You know, Lecce can reinvest that money in the summer, and United have hopefully got themselves a bargain.
Let's go to the focus on the most successful clubs in the transfer window in Serie A. Emmet, you've written a piece. It is on the destination.calcio.com website. The 9 most eye-catching Serie A transfers, but we're going to try and whittle that down, and we'll let you go and read the rest of the article on the website itself. Look, Milan, Como, Juventus, they're the big spenders. Now, surprise to some that are new to Italian football, Como, the top spender. Emmet, take it away.
Yeah, I think the total expenditure for the window is around just shy of 50 million euros, which is big because considering historically Italian teams don't spend or don't like to spend that much.
And a newly promoted team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In January transfer windows, regardless, but considering the fact that they've just come up, obviously Milan, again, trying to rectify the damage that they did last summer, they spent just shy of 50 million also. Yep. Juventus the third with around 30 million.
20.
So there was money thrown around, not extravagantly, but still a lot of money for the January transfer window.
Yeah, even the Roman sides, Roma, Lazio, with about 15 million each. Parma, dire straits for them. We'll see how they go the rest of the season. But Fabio Pecchia with 16 million euros in spending, you know, he's gone out. He's brought in a player in that list. We won't talk about the Parma signing. Let's talk about our top signings, in my opinion, your opinion and Dan's opinion. Emmet, give me your first. We'll give you guys 2 each. I'll have 1. Let's go to the top 5.
Okay. I think Joao Felix to Milan is an interesting one. He's obviously a player that doesn't seem to have a home these days. He's constantly getting bounced around from one team to the next. He wasn't getting much of a look in at Chelsea. And obviously Jorge Mendes has, you know, does what Jorge Mendes does and moves his clients around to find the proper fit. And I think he needs Milan as much as Milan need him, because I think in attack, Milan are a bit, obviously we've seen it at the derby. If Rafael Leao's not on form, they really don't have a lot going forward. Christian Pulisic has did okay this season, but I think Felix is interesting. You know, it's a 6-month loan. It's a no-risk gamble. If he doesn't do well, return to sender. But I think Felix could add something. You know, he's quick, he's good with the ball. You know, he's not an out-and-out finisher. But obviously, Milan have also tried to rectify that with the signing of Santiago Gimenez. But I think Felix can add something to this Milan team, especially as a maybe like a number 10 attacking midfield role. So yeah, I think there is a possibility that it could work and he actually could finally find a home.
I know that you want to talk about one in particular that Milan also purchased that might just play in front of those two.
Yeah, I mean, I think Santiago Gimenez, as Emmet mentioned, is the sign of the January transfer window. The most expensive player brought in by any Serie A club. And it's
32 million.
Yeah, 32 million,
Yep.
plus add-ons. And it's a massive, massive signing for Milan. I mean, it's very much a signing based on potential. Gimenez has done really well at Feyenoord, who, of course, are playing Milan in the Champions League. That in itself...
45 goals in 70-something appearances.
Yeah, and that in itself is interesting because Feyenoord have effectively given their best player to the team they'll be playing in the Champions League playoffs.
They're playing them next week.
Yeah.
If someone paid you 32 million, you might do the same.
Going to a rival podcast? I suppose I could. I'll have to chat to my agent about that.
Once we get our Calcio FC actual team and clubhouse ready, we'll let everyone know you can come down and we'll see if maybe Gimenez will do a charity appearance.
Oh, jokes aside, I think it's a statement signing for Milan because let's be honest, their Moneyball approach hasn't worked out so far. Redbird have balanced the books. They are proud of that, as they should, because being self-sustainable is crucial for clubs these days. But Milan just haven't got a proper striker for years now. They have spent 16 million euros on 11 different strikers since 2020, and of those 16 million, 14 went on Alvaro Morata. And Morata scored 6 goals this season. Has already been shipped off to Galatasaray, and I think we can write that off as a mistake.
So they've just doubled that expenditure on the one. So they're putting all their funds. We should mention Milan, number 1 Italian team in the Deloitte Money League. So they've increased their profits, an extra 13 million in revenue this season.
And I mean, Gimenez works well for them because if he is successful, obviously he can help him on the pitch, but he's still very young. And it's got resale value, at least Milan will hopefully have resale value. And I thought it was telling that Ibrahimovic told reporters yesterday that we did get it wrong in the summer. I mean, not in those words, but he admitted that, the team needed improving. And that's why they weren't shy of going out there and getting him. I just think that, his signing goes to show that the Moneyball approach is all well and good if you balance the books. But ultimately, that doesn't get fans excited. It doesn't win you trophies. And therefore, I mean, yes, it's needed. It's necessary. We see with PSR, we see financial fair play, but you don't lift spreadsheets. You lift trophies, I'm not advocating like spending recklessly because we all know what that leads to. But likewise, you've got to give fans something to cheer about. And, Tammy Abraham has scored 2 goals in Serie A this season. Morata, as I said, scored 6 in all competition. Has already been loaned out. And Milan have nobody else.
They've only got Francesco Camarda, the 16-year-old. I'll throw to you, Emmet, with a question. Just want to mention that Gimenez represents Mexico.
Yeah.
Could have represented Argentina and chose not to.
Yeah,
Started off at Cruz Azul to Feyenoord, now to Milan. Can he replicate what he's doing in the Eredivisie? Don't know if he's going to get as much space, Emmet. So that's what I wanted to throw to you about.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen over the years that strikers that come from the Eredivisie to Serie A, the Premier League, La Liga, there is a massive gap, a jump in quality between that league and, the top 5 major European leagues. So I think the jury is still out on whether he will be a success. Obviously, he needs time because he's not going to get the space, as you alluded to.
Well, with full respect, I've got AZ Alkmaar, Feyenoord, Ajax.
Exactly.
PSV.
Put it this way, if he does as well for Milan as their last signing from Feyenoord, who I believe was John Dahl Thomasson, they'll be more than happy.
There you go. Yes, a blast from the past. He was a great striker.
He was a superb finisher.
Yeah.
In that side with the Sheva back then, Carlo Ancelotti, and as the coach.
I mean, he never got much of a look in because the quality of the strikers in front of him. But
it was the 4th striker.
Yeah, exactly.
And he did his job.
And that demonstrated the quality of that Milan team when he was 4th choice.
Yeah.
Now he would be automatic 1st choice.
Don't get us started on the old Milan team because we'll be here for another hour. I'm going to move on and name mine. I've only got one in this top 5. It's Assane Diao, the Como revelation. He scored 2 goals already, so he's definitely given something in return already. He's only 19, and he's another one of those Spanish wingers that can sort of play centrally, out wide. He's a fast runner. He's kind of what we would think Kyle Walker was years ago, back when he was about that age. Fast, powerful, decisive. He makes a beeline for the goal, but he'll weave you in and out. He's got the step overs. He's got everything. Already scored against Milan, scored against Udinese in that 4-1 win. Superb player coming over from Real Betis, and I think it was 11 million, was it, Emmet? I'm not sure. I'll double check that. 12 million.
Yeah, 12
euros.
million.
And I think a standout player for Como. I think he's going to really help them make that impact needed. They've gone in for a few different players. Como, I think they've signed, I think they've turned over half the squad in the January window. So
but you can see that they're going for the sort of like a certain kind of player, a young player, which has a lot of upside, hopefully for them anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think that they're doing this because obviously Nico Paz has been linked with moves to Inter Milan and a few big European clubs are sniffing around?
Well, that's the big club, that overarching mentality. Young player does well at a smaller club, therefore he should belong to one of the big three. I'm against that. I want them to stay. I love the loyalty like we had in the 70s and 80s back in Serie A, where even Verona could win a Scudetto, or Napoli, because they were rubbish, let's be honest, back in the 80s. Diego came, stayed there, got them trophies. Yeah. That's what we need back in Serie A.
Yeah. I mean, Como could have spent even more because they put in a bid for Theo Hernandez.
Yeah,
which
40 million.
40 million.
If reports are to be believed.
Yeah, exactly.
Duvakas, another striker that's gone there, the Greek striker. So he's a good one on, I think it was deadline day, from Celta Vigo. A few others there. Kakare, we've already seen, we've spoken about Dele Alli already, a couple of pods back. You haven't seen that, go and watch it on our YouTube channel. Let's go again. You guys have one more each.
So my last pick is Nicolo Fagioli, who went from Juventus to Fiorentina.
Next-gen player?
Yeah. I think this is a bit of a painful one for Juventini, because there was a lot of hope put on Fagioli, but I think the mixture of getting caught up in the betting suspension, he slowly came back last year in Max Allegri's, final season. Allegri was a big fan of Fagioli.
And Luciano Spalletti, because he called him up without him even... Did he even play a minute for Juventus on his comeback?
No.
And Tonali brought back in, so fair play to Spalletti,
Exactly. And then obviously Allegri left. Thiago Motta has come in. And he did play under Motta this season. He had 17 games for Juventus, but he's fallen further and further down the pecking order. Obviously, you have Catherine Thuram, is there, you have Manuel Locatelli, you have Coop Miners, you have Weston McKennie. There's a lot of midfielders for that double pivot in Motta's 4-2-3-1. So it seemed like a matter of time, and Juventus tried to sell other players. They couldn't make that happen. So Fagioli, in the end, was the sacrificial lamb to raise some capital.
Well, they needed it for Colomouani.
Yeah, exactly. And according to reports, Fagioli actually reached out to Allegri to advise him where to go, because he was considering moving abroad.
Father figure.
Exactly. And Allegri
he was
said...
with Marseille, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, yeah. And Allegri told him, stay in Italy and go to Fiorentina. And that's what he did.
Well, I mean, Moise Kean is...
Fabulous project.
Has resurrected his career.
We've seen what he's done,
I mean, Fiorentina, I think they're a perfect... for players like Fagioli, they're the perfect club.
There's some tremendous midfielders there as well. You got Mandragora with that look away ball over the top for Moise Kean. What a fabulous goal. If you haven't seen that, go to Serie A's Twitter and have a look at that, or Serie A's YouTube channel. That is a work of art. Let's just stop there. We don't want to go on too much about Juventus. They sold the player to Fiorentina. Good luck to Fagioli there. Dan, let's go with your last one.
Yeah, I mean, the last one is Daniel Maldini. Obviously comes from...
Figlio d'arte.
Yeah, it comes from like one of the... probably the greatest Italian...
son of an artist.
Yeah, they're sort of like...
what a bloodline.
Family dynasty.
In Italian football, and he's played for the Nerazzurri.
That's the good bloodline that we like. Getting away from the mafia stereotypes. That is a football pedigree and a bloodline that we love.
But as Emmet pointed out in his piece, luckily for his dad, the Nerazzurri in question are Atalanta, not Inter Milan.
Yeah.
I think it's an incredibly smart signing.
I think he'll really excel there.
It is. I agree. I mean, I think he's done really well this season. He's obviously got a call up for Italy earlier this season. And it's the kind of player which will... I mean, I think he'll benefit from playing under Gasperini.
Yeah. I mean, imagine playing next to CDK, a former Milan player that maybe didn't make his mark. I think Maldini was on the bench at the same time as CDK there.
Yeah.
CDK moved over. Gasp got the best out of him. Maldini now has that option. He started at Milan, on loan to Spezia, scored against Milan, on loan at Empoli after that. Then we've seen him at Monza a couple of seasons, got his Italian call-up. Here's his big chance.
Yeah, I think it's big chance. And as I said, I think Gasperini's got the knack for getting the best out of his players. And I think it'd be really helpful for Maldini because Gasper can mold players. If you go there and as a defensive midfielder, it will not be a surprise to see Gasperini turning you into like a box-to-box midfielder, or if you go there as a wing back, you may end up playing on the winger after playing a couple of seasons under Gasperini because he's got this tactical flexibility about him, and he's a bit of a visionary, isn't he? Like,
he makes players into better players.
He does, exactly, yeah.
So once again, a reminder, guys, go and check out that piece from Emmet Gates on the 9 most eye-catching signings of Serie A in the January transfer window. To wrap up our top 5 here, well, our most notable 5, mine is Assane Diao, Como. Emmet?
Joao Felix to Milan and Nicolo Fagioli to Fiorentina.
And yeah, Santiago Gimenez to AC Milan and Daniel Maldini to Atalanta for me.